So in today's video, guess where we're going? We're going on a little field trip today. We are going to my first upholstery class. We're doing something bigger and better this time, guys. We are doing a wingback chair. You know what a wingback chair is, right? It looks difficult. I'm gonna see if I can take you along with me today, and we are going on a field trip to the fabric store for an upholstery class. Let's go. We gotta go load up the chair now. So I found this chair. It was $80 at the thrift store, but you know me, I've got coupons, so it only cost about $60. And guess where it's at for 3 years? In my garage, which is crazy. Anyway, you may be looking at the pattern saying, Serena, this looks really good. Why are you reupholstering this? Well, it was so faded from the sun that it looked like it was gray, but it was actually like a deep blue color. So it needs to be made over. And I love trying new skills and taking new classes, so that's why I took the reupholstery class. And this is part 1 of what's probably going to be a 3-part series. So make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss the final outcome of this chair. But it needed a makeover. I love the fabric, but it just wasn't gonna work. And those legs need to be refinished. So the first part was to remove the dust cover. Now that's the black fabric you see lying on the floor, and I didn't get any video of that, but that's basically the cover that helps to keep dust out of the chair. And the way that he explained it is you want to start with the thing that was done last on the chair. So the dust cover is generally the last thing that's added. So that's what I started with. Once I removed the dust cover, I realized, oh, there's some cording that can now be removed. So that was the next layer that I had to peel away. And I did that with a pair of pliers. Probably not the best tool, but you know, it helped me to kind of grab it. And you'll see that I'm ripping it off here. I was moving very gently, trying to remove every single staple, and the man was like, no, don't do that, just rip it away. Now you'll see here, I was able to rip away the cording on both of the sides on the bottom, but it looks like it's tucked up underneath of that fabric around the leg, so I had to wait in order to remove that part.
So I put in this cardboard just next to it, right to the seam line, and made kind of a stiff, so it wouldn't move as easy. Like this. If it wouldn't have cording, it would be like this.
Okay.
Now, something interesting about this cording is that I put the lip part, if you can call that, to the bottom. Here, however, it's flipped. They have made a cut here. And they flipped and pushed it up under the fabric. So 90-degree turn, and then that goes up. And here again, the same thing at the back. Again, it's up and then it's turned and then underneath.
So after getting some instruction from the instructor, I then could remove the back, and that was step 3. And you'll see here that there was a lot of batting back there. There was some old fabric that it looked like it could have been the old fabric from the previous chair, or maybe it was just a piece of scrap fabric. But it didn't really matter because all of that was going to be removed anyway. So I continued removing the back piece of the fabric, and you'll notice here that I'm ripping it out of the curve ease. Now this is a metal piece that allows you to have a nice seam where there's a curve in the chair. And so I just pulled that back with the pliers, and you'll see that it's got some furniture tacks, and then at some point they decided to use staples. So I was still working on the back at that point, and I needed to remove the curvies from the back. So I used my pliers and just grabbed it as best as I could and ripped it out. And I noticed that a lot of the furniture tacks just went everywhere on the floor. So just be careful whenever you're pulling that out. You will see that there will be tacks and, you know, staples, everything kind of flying everywhere, and you don't want to, you know, have them come back in your face or have somebody step on them. So the next layer to remove was the cording. This is still the back of the chair. I removed as much of the curvies as I could, and now I just had to rip out the cording. And I was getting pretty good at this. You know, I was not just going through taking out each individual staple. I just ripped that sucker off. All right, so we have the back totally removed, and now we're going to work on the sides. Because if you can tell, this is tucked over this piece, so we have to remove this first. So that was one of the big takeaways that I learned so far, just in doing one day of class, is that how you remove the fabric depends on how it's layered. So you try to find that one part that looks like it was the last thing that was layered, and then you remove that. And as you remove it, you'll start noticing what needs to be removed next. And you'll see here that the lower outer side of the chair was folded over top of the upper outer side of the chair. So I know that sounds confusing, but that allowed me to figure out that the side was next. Remember that cording that was stuck up underneath of that fabric? Well, now it was exposed and I could just rip it off really easily. Do this. Even if it's heavy, I just have to.
Let me get my staple thing, so. You get at least one side right that you do. Yes, so, therefore did. Never mind.
How did they even get that in there?
So that's the way you.
Oh, I know how. They did it this way, didn't they?
Oh, yes, you do.
Yes,
Yep.
there we
Yeah,
go.
okay, so I don't have to worry about going.
So as I was struggling to remove this side piece of fabric, I realized that it was flipped up and then stapled in. And so when it's flipped back down over the lining, over the batting, it had a nice even seam. So I flipped it back up and then realized I needed to remove all of the lining, all of the batting. And once I did that, then I was able to easily rip out the piece that was flipped over the side. So that's where you can see I started to remove the fabric, and I just grasped it with the pliers and just pulled, and it came right off for the most part.
Let me try, maybe it's, did you get enough? I'm doing that.
You can see that the lower outer sides of the chairs had some curve ease, so I removed that and then went ahead and removed the cording, and the sides of the chair were pretty much done. At least the lower sides were. I still needed to do the upper sides. And I was a little confused about where this cording stopped on the lower side, so I did not remove all of that. I just removed what I could, and I left it hanging, and I'll deal with it next week when I go back to the class again. So after removing the lower side of the chair, I could remove the upper side of the chair, and you'll notice that there's some metal curve ease there at the top. I didn't notice it anywhere else on the upper side, so it's just there at the top, and I used my pliers to pull it as best as I could and removed all the lining, removed all of the batting, and just totally gutted the sides of the chair.
For some, you use that foot back there.
A smooth surface, because otherwise it's going to work. Okay. Then the back. Okay, so.
This part was
Well, I don't know, because I was thinking, do I pull it back down?
They should have closed it. If you buy it. It's a good thing to do.
So they did this when the fabric was off.
Most probably, so yes. But now you can
Yeah.
just try to close
You work
this.
the weave so it doesn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you try to close it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, guys, so when I left Reupholstery class, this is what my chair is looking like. It is going to be an amazing wingback chair. I got the back and the sides totally gutted. Now, the teacher doesn't seem to think that I need to remove the fabric from the front and the sides on the inside, but I think I will because it's kind of dirty. All right, guys, well, we are done with taking off the back and the sides of this chair. Probably before the next class, I will remove this and this, even though the teacher said he doesn't think I need to, but it's so old that I don't think I want to cover it up. I think I just want to rip it out and start fresh. Anyway, if you like this project, be sure to follow along, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the final reveal. Go back to thriftdiving.com and you can get 5 ebooks and printables if you subscribe, and you won't miss the next project. I'll see you next video.